Cairo Blackthorn is an S-rank alpha, while I'm just an ordinary beta. So even though we met back in high school, even though I became his personal assistant right after graduation, I never dared to let him know how I actually felt about him. When I later heard he was entering an arranged union, I left a resignation letter and prepared to disappear quietly, only to be stopped at the airport by the man himself. He pinned me against the wall, the sharp edge of his canine teeth grazing the back of my neck as he spoke in a cold voice. "Is it because I can't mark you, that you've forgotten who you belong to?" Story begins. Varsal Blackthorn, Cairo's father, summoned me back to the old estate alone. I already knew why. So when he placed a thick stack of Omega profiles in front of me, I wasn't surprised. He wore a gentle smile, but his eyes were razor-sharp, like he could see straight through me. "Zyron, you've known Cairo since high school. Help me see what kind of Omega he might prefer. Someone like Cairo, someone born with wealth, status, power, has everything except control over his marriage. These powerful families have their own social circles, their own expectations. Even though the Blackthorn household stands at the top and doesn't need political marriages to protect its influence, anyone raised so high above the world eventually loses sight of the people still struggling below. The matter of a union should have been discussed with Cairo directly, yet Varsal came to me instead. When I looked up, he was watching me with heavy, assessing eyes. I knew what he wanted. My relationship with Cairo wasn't a secret in the Blackthorn household. I am his personal assistant, not the job title, but the word personal is what matters. To be precise, Cairo and I are occasional companions. We work well together, and things in bed line up smoothly too. But that's all. He is an S-rank alpha. I am a male beta with extremely low fertility. There is no future between us. So I never confessed anything, not even during the closest moments. I always held myself back, keeping every emotion locked down. But the Blackthorn family cares about appearances. If Cairo is entering a political union, everything on the side must be cleaned up so no one can gossip. I accepted the stack of profiles respectfully and read through them carefully. I could clearly feel Varsal relax as I did. What kind of Omega does Cairo like? The question echoed in my mind, but instead of answering it, my head filled with memories I shouldn't think about. Cairo whispering against my ear when things got too heated. "Baby, your waist is so slim. Sweetheart, you're so pale. Zyron, your legs are incredible." I cleared my throat and focused again, forcing those thoughts aside. After reviewing everyone's background, personality, education, and temperament, I selected 4 candidates. "These are the ones I believe suit Cairo best, sir." He took the files and set them aside without even looking. He already had someone in mind. He brought me here not for advice but to make sure I understood Cairo was getting married, so I would step away on my own. After all, Cairo now holds the Blackthorn power. Compared to his father, Cairo's methods are colder, sharper, some might even call them ruthless. He was a prodigy in business, young, brilliant, decisive. He seized the family authority from his father at barely 20 years old, making Varsal the quickest patriarch in Blackthorn history to relinquish control. The family has always raised its children the same way. Teach them business. Teach them to compete. Teach them to crush rivals, even siblings. Only the strongest earns the right to rule. Varsal claimed leadership at 25. Cairo did it at 20. Convincing me to leave him quietly was far easier than facing Cairo directly. "Zyron, you've been with the company for nearly 6 years. Cairo never thought about promoting you. He's still too young. His brother just opened a branch overseas and wants you as vice president. What do you think?" Cairo's older brother, born with a physical condition, lost his eligibility to compete for succession. Banished early, he moved abroad. Varsal must have assumed that since I am a normal beta with low fertility, maybe I could match with his elder son instead. But he didn't even know, Heir Blackthorn already has an Omega abroad. I hid my emotions and acted pleasantly surprised. "I will follow whatever arrangement you think best, sir." As soon as I said that, footsteps echoed from the entrance. Cairo stood there, expression cold, brows drawn tight. "What arrangement?" "Zyron belongs to me. He follows my orders." Varsal casually slid the union profiles into the cabinet before answering. "What, you won't announce yourself when you come home?" Cairo's gaze landed briefly on the cabinet, but he said nothing, only replied coolly, "You didn't announce anything when you summoned my assistant." He glanced back at me sitting stiffly on the sofa and clicked his tongue. "Zyron, did your legs stop working? Get over here." I gathered my things quickly and followed him into the car. He drove back to his private villa. Just as we pulled into the underground garage, he locked the doors. I looked at him, confused. "What's wrong?" His eyes were dark and unreadable. "What did the old man tell you?" My body tensed for a moment. I forced myself to breathe evenly. "He just asked about how you're doing lately. Cairo stared at me in silence. The air turned dense, cold. My chest grew tight. I reached for the window switch for some air, but he grabbed my wrist and pinned it above my head. He pushed the seat back, lowering me, then leaned over me, shadow heavy. His voice dropped to a low warning, almost coaxing. Last chance. If you don't tell the truth, you're not coming to work tomorrow. I'm not good at lying. The best lie I ever told was saying I didn't like him. He sees through everything else. So I stayed silent. He let out a soft, dangerous laugh, gripping my chin and forcing my face up. So disobedient. Looks like you need a proper lesson. Then he cupped the back of my neck and kissed me, fiercely. Not crossing the line. Not explicit, but overwhelming enough to steal my breath. I held onto him tightly, pulled under with him, unable to push away. When I woke up again, it was already noon. I glanced at the faint marks on my body and felt the dull ache low on my back. I let out a quiet sigh. As expected, Cairo's sensitivity cycle must be approaching. Even though I couldn't smell his pheromones, years of being around him had taught me his patterns. A few days before it hit, his possessiveness always sharpened, his touch grew stronger, his presence heavier, as if he wanted to pull me entirely into his orbit. As an S-rank alpha, his cycles were notoriously intense, emotionally volatile, physically overwhelming, every reaction amplified far beyond what ordinary alphas experienced. I originally planned to wait until his cycle passed before leaving, but Mr. Varsel wasn't willing to wait. His final call came with a tone that left no room for negotiation. Zyron, you said you would leave. Why haven't you moved yet? Do you really want Cairo to stay with you forever with no heir? Do you want to destroy the Blackthorn legacy? I fell silent for a long moment before answering softly. I understand. I'll go soon. I had always known we were impossible. That was why, back in his freshman year, when he lost control during his cycle and treated me like an omega, when he later said he would take responsibility, I told him coldly, I'm a beta. You can't bond with me, and I don't like you. So there's nothing to take responsibility for. But had I never wavered? I had. The moment I was captured by his stepbrother's men and used to threaten him. When a blade pressed to my throat, when steel rods struck his back again and again, and he still forced himself to give me a comforting smile. As if he feared I'd be frightened. As if he wanted me to believe he was unshakable. That was when an old memory flashed through my mind. Years ago, when I was being cornered in an alley by some local bullies demanding my lunch money, he appeared at the entrance, lazy steps, indifferent expression, and chased them off like it was nothing. He looked down at me afterward, expression cool. If you don't want to be bullied, he said, I can teach you to fight. Maybe he noticed my worn-out shoes, because he added, it's free. People used to say he felt nothing, that he lacked empathy. I never understood why he helped me, but from that moment on, he became a rare light in my gray life. So yes, I had liked him since then. And so yes, I wavered many times, but when he told me he wanted the Blackthorn throne, I knew what that meant. A ruler must have an heir, and a beta like me could never give him that, which was why our relationship eventually twisted into what it was, strange, undefined, and finally, just, physical. Maybe because he suspected I'd met with Mr. Varsel, Cairo watched me closely for days. Only after seeing nothing unusual did he finally relax. And then came the perfect opportunity, an overseas business trip. As I packed his luggage, he leaned against the doorway, arms folded, watching me with an unreadable expression. After a long while, he walked over and wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, holding me tightly. He pressed a gentle kiss to my ear, his warm breath brushing my cheek, his voice soft, but the meaning beneath it was sharp. You'll stay with me forever, right? For a moment, it felt like he saw straight through me, like he knew I planned to leave. But no one knew except me and Mr. Varsel. I steadied myself and studied his reflection in the full-length mirror. His expression was calm, emotionless. Why are you asking that all of a sudden? I said. He lowered his head, brushing his lips lightly against the back of my neck, my most vulnerable spot, even though I had no pheromones at all. That faint touch sent a shiver through me, my body reacting before my mind could. His voice was quiet, almost flat. I don't know. I just feel like you might vanish the second I look away. So, you'll stay, right? I exhaled silently and covered his hands around my waist. Of course I won't disappear. He stared at me for a long time before murmuring, Zyron, don't lie to me. I swallowed down the ache in my chest and forced a light, teasing tone. I'm not lying. Now let go, unless you want your suitcase half-packed. After hearing that promise, he behaved much more calmly. I double-checked the case of suppressants before tucking it into his suitcase, only for him to speak again. My cycle is starting. Come with me. I don't want suppressants. The more unreasonable he became, the closer his cycle was. probably within 2 days. Afraid he'd actually drag me with him, I gently soothed him. There's still a mountain of work waiting for me at the company. You're only going for a day or two. It's not like I can run away. The moment the words left my mouth, I froze. My throat tightened, my eyes suddenly prickling. Cairo must have sensed something, because he gave me a questioning look. I buried my face against his chest before he could see anything, patting his back lightly. All right, don't be difficult. I'll be here when you return. He seemed reassured, because even at the airport he didn't fuss again. I watched him disappear through the boarding gate, then turned back to pack my own things. I had a lot of belongings, half the house was practically mine, but in the end, I forced myself to take only a small suitcase. I left my resignation letter on his desk. Before I closed the door, I turned around one last time, taking in the home we had shared for nearly 6 years. It held so many memories, warm ones, bright ones, but I was never meant to be his future. I breathed out softly, closed the door behind me, and walked away without looking back. I had no intention of going to the company Mr. Varsel mentioned. After all these years, I had saved enough money, and my plan was simple: travel the world for a while, then settle somewhere I truly liked. But the moment I arrived at the airport, something felt off. It was June, yet a chill crawled over my skin, cold sweat trickling down my back as if countless unseen eyes were watching me. I glanced around, but no one paid me any attention. Everyone was busy with their own lives. I took a deep breath, pushing down the growing unease. Even when the boarding announcement sounded and nothing unusual happened, I still couldn't shake the feeling. Eventually, I convinced myself I was overthinking. But just as I was about to board, several men in black suits suddenly appeared and surrounded me. I recognized the man at the front immediately, Cairo's head of security. With polite formality, he said, "Cairo wishes to speak with you, young Master Zyron." And in that moment, everything became painfully clear. There was no business trip abroad. Cairo had known about my plan to leave all along. He had given me space not out of trust, but to see whether I would actually run. No wonder he had acted so strangely that day. I had thought it was due to his approaching sensitivity period, but now it all made sense. The guards escorted me to a VIP lounge. Cairo sat on a sofa, eyes closed. At the sound of the door, he slowly opened them. When his gaze landed on me, it was icy enough to freeze the room. A shiver ran down my spine. With a small wave of his hand, the bodyguards closed the door behind us. Before I could speak, Cairo was already in front of me. He gripped the back of my neck and pressed me against the wall, his tone colder than steel. "Tell me, did you really think you could forget who you belong to just because I can't mark you?" Fear shot through me. "Cairo, please, don't do this." What I dreaded most was Cairo trying to force any kind of claim on me. I wasn't an Omega, he couldn't truly mark me. And the first time his self-control snapped during his sensitivity period, the bite he left on my neck had taken weeks to heal. Ever since then, I had begged him never to bite me there again, not just because of the pain, but because the sensation always jolted me awake in the worst way, dragging me into spirals of panic I could barely escape. Cairo let out a low, mirthless laugh. "So what should I do then? If I don't leave a mark, you try to run. If I try to hold you, you still try to run." His hand reached for my collar, loosening the top button. My breath hitched. "I'm sorry, Cairo, please, let's talk, okay? Calm down first. We can talk." His voice remained firm, unyielding. "No, I gave you a chance, Zyron. You're the one who threw it away." The moment he said that, the last of his restraint snapped. His anger, mixed with the turmoil of his sensitivity period, hit like a storm. I felt dizzy, my limbs weakening as the overwhelming pressure of his presence closed in on me. My mind clouded, but I still tried, desperately, to reach whatever sanity he had left. "Kai." Before I could finish, he covered my mouth with his hand, jaw tightening with frustration, his actions fueled by a volatile mix of fear and fury at the thought of losing me. A sharp sting shot across my skin, and I gasped, the sound muffled. He heard it, he always did. Normally, even during his worst moments, he would stop if I showed any sign of pain. But not this time. His breath was harsh against my ear, his words low and edged with emotion he could no longer hide. "Remember this. If you try to leave again, I won't let you walk away so easily." A tremor ran through me, not just from fear, but from the intensity of everything wrapped inside him. Anger, panic, possessiveness, desperation. Maybe sensing the way I was shaking, he finally loosened his grip, pulling me firmly into his arms. His chest radiated heat, grounding me even as my thoughts spun. "Why are you afraid?" he murmured. "Stay by my side, and you'll never have to be." Before I could answer, he leaned in and pressed his lips to mine, not gentle, not rough, just a wordless attempt to hold on to me, to keep me from slipping away. And despite everything, resistance faded, swallowed by the gravity of him, by the feelings I had hidden for far too long. When I woke up again, I had no idea how many days had passed. Cairo was sitting at the edge of the bed, applying medicine to the back of my neck, an area still raw from his bites. His movements were gentle, almost cautious, as though he was afraid of hurting me. I couldn't help curling my lips in silent frustration. Sure, now he was being gentle. He hadn't exactly held back when he bit me. He caught my tiny expression immediately and raised a cold eyebrow. Not satisfied, are you? Judging by his current demeanor, his susceptibility period must have passed. Otherwise, he wouldn't be this calm. Since that was the case, I was no longer afraid of provoking him. That night, you put a listening device in my phone, didn't you? He didn't even bother pretending otherwise. No guilt, no panic. Just a straightforward nod. Yes. I punched the bed in anger. Since you were eavesdropping, you should know about your upcoming marriage, right? You're about to be engaged. Why would I stay with you? What do you want me to be, your secret affair? His expression darkened instantly. Oh, you still have the nerve to bring that up? What's wrong? Helping me pick a marriage partner, does that make you feel good? My eyes widened. How do you know about that? He let out a quiet, humorless laugh. Oh, I know everything. I know you looked through every file carefully, seriously, meticulously, then handpicked 4 omegas you thought would be perfect for me. And, what else? Ah yes, the old man wanted you to meet my brother. He wanted to match you too, and you agreed, didn't you? The dangerous tone in his voice told me I absolutely couldn't follow that thread. If I did, I had no idea what he'd do next, so I forcefully steered back to the earlier point. Stop dragging the topic around. The fact is, you're getting married, so whatever this is between us should just... Ah! Cairo slapped my backside, so sharply that tears sprang to my eyes. He grabbed my chin, voice shaking with restrained anger. What do you mean, whatever this is? Zyron, do you have any idea how heartless you sound? We've known each other for over a decade. From the moment I first tried to claim you, I treated you like a spouse. You said you didn't like me, fine. I gave you time. I didn't push. But now you say our relationship is undefined. Why don't you just say I'm nothing but a casual hookup to you? His last words were loud enough to make me flinch. I fell silent, and from my reaction he saw everything. Cairo laughed, angrily. So that's it. In your world, undefined is already a polite way to put it. While I treated you like a partner, you went around telling yourself I'm just your occasional companion. I didn't go around telling anyone, I muttered weakly. Of course you didn't, he snapped. Because you were too busy planning my marriage. You couldn't wait for me to have a spouse and a child, right? You didn't want anyone knowing about us. His voice dropped, colder. So you must find me disgusting. When you heard about the arranged marriage, you were thrilled, weren't you? Finally free of me. You wouldn't have slept with me that first time if you weren't drunk, right? You regretted it. You've been wanting to leave ever since. That's why you walked away without looking back. I opened my mouth to explain, but then I paused. Maybe this was a chance. Cairo fought so hard to get where he is. Everyone said he was brilliant, but I knew the truth. How brutal the struggles were, how he couldn't slip even once. If anyone knew he was choosing a beta who couldn't give him an heir, they'd crush him without hesitation. So I swallowed the comfort I almost gave him. I looked straight into Cairo's eyes, more calmly than I ever had, and said, Yes, Cairo, I never liked you. If it weren't for being drunk that night, if I hadn't felt too embarrassed to break the promise afterward, I would never have been with you. I continued, even though it hurt. I never wanted to. What are you? My sentence was cut off by a cry. Cairo suddenly flipped me over and smacked me, twice, then flipped me back and bit down on my collarbone. I was about to question him when something warm hit my skin. Tears, hot, falling one after another. I froze. Cairo almost never cried. Even when he had been beaten half to death years ago, he hadn't shed a tear. I felt stunned, then a little heartbroken. My hand lifted instinctively to soothe him, but I stopped myself. I couldn't soften now. So I remained still, letting him cry silently. He noticed my lack of reaction. A single tear paused on his lash, then he lifted his head. His eyes had turned icy. A cold, twisted smile curved at his lips. Zyron, you're ruthless. He wiped his tears away violently. His whole presence shifted, dark, dangerous. Fine. You want me to marry, right? Then I'll marry. But who I marry, that's up to me. You despise me, you don't want me, fine. But you're tied to me for life. As long as I'm alive, I will never let go. So you'd better start liking me soon. Because no matter how much it bothers you, no matter what I have to do, I won't stop. And the one who'll suffer, will be you. He left the villa after saying that, slamming the door behind him. I sat there, stunned and speechless. How did this suddenly turn into full-blown obsessive love? After that day, I never saw Cairo again. He filled the villa with security guards, all betas, of course, a considerate move on the surface. But then he deliberately had someone add cilantro, the one thing I can't stand, into every meal. I had to pick it out for half an hour each time. I knew exactly why he did all of this. He wanted me to reach out to him. And then what? Probably hoped I would soften my tone, coax him a little. Cairo has always been easy to placate. A gentler voice, a small hint of affection, that was all it took for him to melt. Otherwise, that day in the lounge, he wouldn't have covered my mouth. He didn't want to hear me beg. He knew he'd cave, let me go, and he didn't want to forgive me so easily. I sighed and unlocked my phone. Over the past few days, social media had exploded with rumors about the heir of the Blackthorne family marrying a statusless male beta with an extremely low fertility rate. Some even claimed I came from a mysterious tribe and had cast a spell on Cairo, that if he didn't marry me, he'd collapse on the street bleeding from every orifice. Others insisted I had taken compromising photos of him and used them as leverage, since I used to be his personal assistant. In short, everyone insisted I must have used some shameful method to force Cairo into choosing me. It made sense from their perspective. After all, Cairo was openly going against the entire Blackthorne family just to marry me. Either I had manipulated him, or he had lost his mind. They simply refused to believe that an attractive, composed, S-rank alpha would willingly marry a beta. I didn't know the exact situation between Cairo and the Blackthorne family. All I knew was that one day, Varsal Blackthorne called and immediately started yelling, "You unfilial brat, tell me, has he lost his mind?" He actually challenged all his uncles publicly, saying if they had the ability to take his position, he'd hand it over willingly. He took a deep breath and continued, "And you, I don't even know what to say to you. You've stayed by his side for more than 10 years, yet it took them less than half a day to drag you away. If you're going to be captured, fine, but why did you provoke him afterward? Look what happened, he's raging at everyone, and yesterday he smashed up half my estate. If I weren't his father, he might have cracked my skull open." Finally, he sighed. "I can't control him anymore. You talk to him. You're the only one he listens to." I sighed helplessly. No one dared take Cairo's position now. When the family was under Mr. Varsal, they were powerful, yes, but always in fierce competition with the second and third-ranked families. But once Cairo took over, the Blackthorne family surged so far ahead that no one could catch up. So yes, he could speak boldly, but he forgot one thing. If he stayed with me and we had no children, then when he grew older, when his energy waned, those hungry for power would circle like beasts and tear him apart without leaving a single bone. In the end, I called Cairo. He picked up quickly, but he didn't say anything, just waited. I steadied myself and spoke coldly, colder than I had ever sounded. "Cairo, what kind of stunt are you pulling? How much more chaos do you want?" He exploded instantly. "What stunt? I just want to marry the person I love. Is that not allowed? Why must I follow their arrangements and marry an Omega I don't even like? This position wasn't handed to me, I fought for it. Why should they get to control me? Then marry an Omega you like." He laughed, sharp, bitter. "An Omega I like? Zyron, do you really have no heart? You don't know who I like. If I could marry the Omega I like, I would. But the person I've liked from the beginning has always been you." My throat tightened, but I forced myself to speak calmly. "Cairo, you feel this way because your first partner happened to be me. If you spend time with others, you'll realize you actually prefer Omegas." Silence. Then glass shattering violently. "Cairo?" I asked quietly. His voice tore out, raw. "Zyron, say that again." He was furious. I knew I shouldn't continue, but if I didn't end things properly, this would never be resolved. "Try being around other Omegas. You'll see. I've never liked you. Stop wasting your time on me, it only disgusts me." A low laugh echoed through the phone, hollow, painful. After a long while, he spoke again, voice hoarse beyond recognition. "If that's what you want, fine. I'll grant it." And he hung up. I stood there gripping my phone, biting my lip just to stay upright. This was how it should be. This was the right path. Soon after, all the security guards left. I packed my suitcase and walked out of the villa. This time, it was truly goodbye. A month later, I stood outside the hospital, staring blankly at a pregnancy report. The baby was nearly 5 weeks old, likely conceived at the airport that night. I had left Cairo because I believed I could never have children. But now, I was carrying our child. What did all my previous decisions mean now? I touched my still flat stomach and hesitated over his number. For the entire month, Cairo had erased all news of his supposed marriage. He hadn't met any Omega. Every day, I saw him on financial news programs, colder, sharper, eyes devoid of warmth. He probably hated me now, and I couldn't blame him. After hesitating again and again, I finally pressed the call button. The phone rang for nearly a minute. Just when I thought he wouldn't pick up, he answered. His voice was flat, distant. "What is it?" "Cold, professional, emotionless." I froze, then whispered, "I'm pregnant." His breathing stuttered for a split second, but when he spoke again, his tone was steady, as if I'd imagined it. "When the child is born, I'll raise them." Maybe it was the hormones, or maybe it was the coldness in his voice, but I suddenly felt wronged, my voice trembling. "Why?" "Because you disgust me. You definitely won't take care of the child properly." His voice wavered ever so slightly, and it hurt to hear. I suddenly remembered everything cruel I had said to escape him. I bit my lip and checked the call duration before stammering. I didn't mean those things. I don't hate you. Will you listen if I explain?" I didn't expect him to agree. Cairo had pride, and I had shattered it again and again. "If I didn't want to listen," he said quietly, "I wouldn't have answered." For a moment, it felt like before, when even angry, he'd still allow me to coax him. I told him everything. He clicked his lighter irritably, then tossed it aside. "Zyron, just because of that? You wanted to leave me because of something like that?" I argued, "But the heir." He cut me off sharply. "So what if there's no heir? As long as I'm alive, they won't dare make a move. I only became head of the family to protect you. If I'd known this position would make you overthink and push me away, I never would have taken it. I never knew. I had never even imagined his reason. I'm sorry." He inhaled deeply. "Forget it. I won't hold the past against you. Tell me where you are, I'm coming to get you." After a moment of silence, he added in a low, stern voice, "But if you ever push me away again, for my own good, I swear I won't forgive you easily. Understand?" Threatening, yes, but it warmed me. Understood. I gave him the address, and he arrived quickly. He had lost weight, noticeably. I stepped forward to hug him, but he pulled me in by the back of my head and kissed me, deep and unrestrained. After a long moment, he pressed his forehead to my shoulder, voice muffled. "You heartless thing. If you hadn't called today, I would have lost my mind." I lifted a hand and gently stroked his back, softening my voice. "It won't happen again. Let's go home." He held me tighter. "Yeah, let's go home." Extra story. Cairo never truly understood why he pulled that boy out of the dark alley that night, nor why he went as far as teaching him self-defense afterward. He had grown up without knowing what love looked like. His mother passed away the moment he was born. Later, his father remarried and barely spared any attention for him or his older brother. And his brother, drowning in his own pressures, had no time to care for him either. So Cairo grew up unfamiliar with affection, so unfamiliar that he didn't realize he had fallen for Zyron the very first moment he saw him. Things became clearer only later. One day, an Omega confessed to Zyron. Zyron turned him down, gently wiping the tears off the boy's face. Jealousy hit Cairo so hard it ignited something uncontrollable inside him. For the first time in his life, he lost control of his emotions. All he could think about was keeping Zyron close enough that no one else would ever misunderstand their place. But he couldn't leave anything on Zyron that said, "He's mine." Not in the way everyone else would have recognized. So all he could do was keep Zyron at his side, refusing to let him out of his sight. Yet Zyron wouldn't acknowledge anything between them. Without that acknowledgement, even warning off the people who looked at Zyron a little too long felt shaky, like he didn't have the right. Fortunately, he was the head of the Blackthorn family. One sentence from him was enough to make people back off. Otherwise, he would have felt like nothing but a fool, an anxious boy clinging to someone he couldn't claim. It wasn't easy, but after a long, stubborn effort, he finally convinced Zyron to agree to a fully public, live broadcast wedding. At last, Cairo could stand in front of the whole world and declare openly, proudly, Zyron is the one he chooses, and the one he will protect for the rest of his life.